Recovering diesel from plastic waste, Kenya's national airlines makes at least 1,000 liters of diesel daily.
Infrastructure development is turning Adamawa State in northeast Nigeria into an investment hub.
And a look at whether Nigerians seeking miracle workers risk their health by choosing healing prayers over a doctor's care.
Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCurry from the Voice of America in Washington, D.C.
Well, thanks. I'm Vincent McCurry at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
The construction of roads, flyovers, bridges, and an international sports complex has transformed the look of Yola, the Adamawa state capital. This infrastructure is quickly turning the city into the northeast investment hub and endearing the governor, Umaru Fintiri, to the hearts of residents as a project master.
It's an unscheduled visit by Governor Umaru Fintiri, who is constantly visiting project sites in Adamawa State to assess the extent of work. The site engineer at the Adamawa Sports Complex takes him round to see the progress made so far. Addressing the media during the inspection tour, the governor expresses satisfaction with the quality of work, but reiterates the importance of meeting the deadline.
He is moving according to timeline, and he is keeping to pace based on the project specification. And we don't want to be pessimistic. This is not in line with our policy.
He also inspects some of the ongoing projects and the construction of flyovers. At a separate event, the Adamawa State Executive Council meeting, presided over by Governor Umaru Fintiri, approved over 8 billion naira for the reconstruction of 2 bridges in Shua and Yambula in Madagali local government areas of the state destroyed by the recent flooding in the area. Briefing the Government House press crew after the council meeting, the Commissioner for Information says the project is in 2 phases.
We have split the project into 2 lots. Lot 1 consisting of the construction of Shua, 12-span bridge, and 1,000 approach roads along that axis. And the second lot is the construction of 4-span bridge and approach road in Mbula, Madagali local government.
The projects, when completed, will provide sporting opportunities for youth as well as boost socio-economic activities between Adamawa and its neighboring state of Borno.
Joining us to discuss infrastructure development in Adamawa State is the Commissioner for Works, Adamu Atiku. Welcome to Africa 54.
That's fine. Honored to be on your program.
Can you walk us through Governor Umaru Fintiri's vision for transforming Adamawa State's infrastructure and how your ministry is executing this plan?
Well, I would say the infrastructural development agenda or program, which my governor's administration, of course, Right Honorable Umaru Fintiri, is at the front burner or at the thrust of his 8-point agenda, which of course is centered on the campaign promises he made to the people of Adamawa State, which falls under the urban and rural renewal program. He has a very aggressive, ambitious vision, of course, towards infrastructural development. And as I said, it has been on the front burner. We have been at it for almost 6 years now, and we have been actually very, very, very successful in, of course, improving and developing most of the obsolete, dilapidated, out-of-date infrastructure that we obviously inherited from the past administration. Of course, he's doing a lot of this to, of course, change the narrative of Adamawa State. In addition to that, obviously, its infrastructural development is fundamental to attract investors into the state. So this, as I said, is on the front burner, and we are leaving no stone unturned in terms of aggressively and rapidly, embarking on some major landmark, symbolic, legacy, signature projects.
How would you ensure that these infrastructure projects are sustainable and well maintained for future generations?
Well, in terms of sustainability, what we try to do is provide world-class infrastructure. So we deal with reputable, competent, contractors who are able to give us good value for money, so that, of course, these projects or these infrastructure projects that we develop would last the test of time. And of course, with regards to maintenance, we do have an agency called the Adamawa State Road Maintenance Agency, which is solely saddled with the responsibility of maintaining and rehabilitating such projects. You should know that my ministry is saddled with the responsibility of construction of new roads, bridges, stormwater drainages, as well as rehabilitation and maintenance of existing ones. So we do have a robust maintenance agency responsible for the maintenance of such infrastructural projects that we do embark on. Sustainability, we can only ensure that, from design to construction and completion is done in line with international best practices. That way, of course, as I said earlier, these projects will last the test of time.
Some of these projects include flyover bridges and township roads. What inspired the focus on the projects being carried out by the state government?
Well, as I said earlier, His Excellency is building the Adamawa of tomorrow. And sadly to say that this flyover we have in Adamawa State is the first flyover in the northeastern region part of the country. So you can imagine that prior to this flyover, obviously we used to have gridlocks, traffic jams, of course what they call go-slows in the state capital in particular. And there was need for us to rechannelize all this traffic to ensure easy, smooth flow of traffic. And there was no other way to do this other than to consider building bridges or flyovers. And this we have done. And of course, with the increasing number of road users, with the increasing number of the population, some of the existing infrastructure were very, very much under pressure. And there was need for us to consider expanding on them or building upon new ones. And this is exactly what we're doing, building the Adamawa for tomorrow. And of course, in the next 20 to 30 years, that's when the real benefits of what we are doing right now would be appreciated. Aside that, of course, you also have to look at the cost element of it. If we don't embark on such projects now, then rather now than later, then you can imagine how much it will cost in another 5 years or 10 years to build some of these bridges and flyovers that we have currently invested in.
Some say that the governor is giving more attention to road infrastructure at the expense of other sectors.
Well, that's absolutely false. Or it could be true, but certainly not at the expense of other sectors. I say this because obviously, as I said earlier, the governor has an 8-point agenda which cuts across various sectors: security, education, health, infrastructure development, and so on and so forth. And it is only normal that some of these sectors would require more focus, more attention, more action on them. And as I rightly said earlier, infrastructural development, which of course we have tagged the urban and rural
renewal agenda is at the front burner of this administration. So it is expected that people will obviously think it's getting more attention than other sectors of the economy. But what I can confidently tell you is that no sector of this economy has not had some form of reform or restructuring or repositioning or some form of upgrading or some form of new initiatives that has been actually carried out. And you can go do a background check to just confirm and to verify what I've just said to you. So that notion that my ministry is getting more attention at the expense of other sectors is absolutely false. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, would like to thank you for your time today, Adamu Atiku, Commissioner for Works in Adamawa State. Thank you for coming on to Africa 54.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. After the break, overcrowding in Port Sudan. We'll meet a church leader who, as a displaced person himself, does what he can do to help. Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent Makori in Washington. In Port Sudan, which has been spared from the fighting in Sudan's civil war, churches have become makeshift shelters for many of the country's 11 million displaced residents. In this report, Henry Wilkins visits one such church where a religious leader who is a displaced person himself does what he can to help with little support from the international community.
When Sudan's civil war started in April last year, those fleeing the fighting began arriving in the city of Port Sudan. The Church of the Virgin Mary opened its doors to the new arrivals. Basada Bushra Gorgeos is one of the priests at the church.
Our role as clergymen is to help others find housing, food, and water. We give psychological counseling and physical treatment as well. We try to find safe places for them to stay, whether here or outside Port Sudan.
Those who cannot afford to flee the country remain at the church, he says. According to UN figures, almost 11 million are now displaced as a result of Sudan's war. In Port Sudan and its surrounding region, 36,000 are forced to live in public buildings such as churches. Anna Simon Aziz Sadek arrived at the church 2 months ago with her young daughter.
When we were coming here, the RSF were stopping cars. They pulled us out of our car and took our belongings. So she's still terrified after she witnessed the gunfire. Now, if she sees a group of strangers, she feels scared.
She says the church was a welcome respite.
Here, we found safety. The church welcomed us and asked us what we needed. We were tired when we came here, but they helped us.
Like Sadek, Gorgeos also found safety in Port Sudan. He was displaced after the church he worked at in another city was attacked by unidentified gunmen. He says the clergymen were deliberately targeted. The attackers knew their names, shot one person in the leg, and looted the building. When he arrived in Port Sudan in October 2023, the trauma weighed heavily on him, he says, but that drove him to help others with similar experiences.
As clergymen, it is a God-given duty and responsibility to serve others, even if we sacrifice our life to do it.
The United Nations has complained about a 50% funding shortfall for Sudan's humanitarian crisis and restricted humanitarian access from the government, exacerbating the plight of Sudan's displaced. On September 25th, the US announced it would send a further $424 million in aid to the country. Henry Wilkins, VOA News, Port Sudan, Sudan.
The High Commissioner of Nigeria to South Africa, Temitope Ajayi, has highlighted the significant contributions of the Nigerian community to South Africa's economy. He emphasized that Nigeria possesses the continent's best human capital resources. Our correspondent, Innocent Semosa, reports.
The event-themed Faith of Resilience brought together Igbo lawyers in South Africa to reflect on their contributions. Ugo Anyam serves as the chairperson of the Igbo Lawyers Association of South Africa.
In response to the teething career challenges faced by our founders, however, we have since evolved, positioning ourselves not merely as a professional organization, but as a proponent of a truly federated system.
In his keynote address, the High Commissioner of Nigeria to South Africa, Timitope Ajayi, hailed the community.
If there is any country in Africa that have seen a critical mass of Nigerian professionals that are doing well in different endeavors, South Africa is well.
We have come a long way. A lot of us, if you listen to my speech earlier, a lot of us arrived here, either with one degree or the other, but had the need arose, to be self-employed in a lot of ways. And most of us, at the time, took the time to go back to school.
I think it's important to have these type of things so that people would know that we exist, Like the High Commissioner was telling me that he wants to meet with me in his office so that we can discuss on bringing people like me together more often.
The High Commissioner of Nigeria to South Africa, Timitope Ajayi, urged the leadership to expand the scope of the organization and consider renaming it the Nigerian Lawyers Association of South Africa. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samos, Channels Television News.
It's time now for a short break. As we do, we remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. And still to come, a children's library in Egypt offers cultural activities not otherwise available to kids in this remote village.
No matter where they are, if it concerns the people, we are there. From community game changers to homemade solution providers, where assurance and trust are built.
Policing should be people from the community who do the job. You don't bring an outsider.
We hear about Amotekun. We've not seen much of them around this area.
Documenting journeys of many starting big from a small place. Creating an intentional community where people go beyond living together to building strong and more friendly communities.
Community Report, only on Channels Television.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Kenya's national airline is recovering diesel from waste plastics. Authorities say the goal is to provide cheaper fuel and to reduce plastic waste pollution. Victoria Amunga reports from Nairobi.
Uncontrolled disposal of plastics in Kenya often increases pollution and waste in the environment. Most of this plastic ends up in landfills. National Airline Kenya Airways launched a project to turn plastics to fuel. The plastics are shredded and loaded into this hopper. Heat breaks the plastics down into oil, which is refined into diesel fuel for ground vehicles.
We get people to work here in the plant, and we get people to work in the community to collect that plastic from the community and pays money as well for the community. So we take that waste plastic from the community around, and we use that. So 98% comes from the community around us. 2% comes from the airline.
Scientists say the diesel produced from plastic waste is less efficient than regular fuel, produces higher exhaust emissions, and has lower flash point, meaning it catches on fire more easily. At the same time, oil supplies and prices are chronically uncertain, and Kenya barely produces any crude oil.
You begin to change people to renewable energy, and then also cut the dependency on fuel, on the traditional hydrocarbon fuels. And the earlier you do it, the better it will be for the country.
Also, plastic pollution remains a significant problem in Kenya despite recent national commitments to increase recycling. An estimated 92% of Kenya's plastic is mismanaged and only 7% is recycled, according to a recent report.
We do use the plastics that is in terms of bottles and other like trays and such like things. So when they break, we would be forced to dispose them. But now with the plant, we are able to bring them back here and recycle the same to produce diesel.
The diesel production plant was designed by Kenyan engineers and is the first of its kind in the country. Kenya Airways officials say producing fuel locally is saving costs and reducing plastic waste. Victoria Amunga, VOA News, Nairobi.
A community library in Egypt's Delta city of Sharqiya is offering children access to cultural activities that are otherwise not available in the remote village. The facility caters to the educational needs of community kids in several subjects.
In a Delta village in Egypt's Sharqiya, dozens of children enjoy reading books and learning about science and technology, thanks to a community library established by a children's books author and her uncle. Reem Nafi and her uncle, Hamdi Nafi, take care of the library in Kafr Abu Nafi village, which is part of Al-Saf charity organization, chaired by Hamdi Nafi.
We noticed that there is a big gap between the book and the reader. Everyone depends on the internet and new things like social media websites, which I don't want to say always, but most of the time have no credible sources of circulated information, and there is a lot of wrong information. But the book's author and its publisher are known. The book is an honest friend for culture seekers.
For Reem Nafi, she wanted to create a space for children to better spend their time amid lack of cultural services in the remote village, far away from Cairo, where most of these activities are offered.
When I look at the children in the village around me, I find them wasting their time. The child finishes homework if he has some, does everything that can be done, and the rest of the day is empty. There is nothing to be done, no place to go, nowhere that can gather the children of the community to do something useful.
She adds that the library is not only for children, but for everyone. Launched a year ago, the community library opens 6 days a week, but every group of children are given slots twice a week to attend due to the limited space and large number of children. Reem says she dreams of establishing similar libraries in thousands of Egyptian villages and has started developing a similar project in the Delta city of Mansoura.
The power of simple prayer to heal illness is not clear, according to scientists, and is also difficult to study. And whatever your faith, when you are sick, you should seek treatment from a doctor. But in Nigeria, some people are choosing spiritual healers and miracle cures over orthodox medicine and hospitals, and that's creating some dangerous situations. Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
3 years ago, Immaculate Joshua's left breast turned sore and discharged blood. She suspected it was cancer, but she didn't go to a doctor. She says she instead visited various spiritual healing homes known as prayer camps, and the pain eventually went away.
I refused to go to hospital. I believe in God. I called one of my spiritual father. He said I should use salt and warm water. When I use it up to then, nothing happened to me. I didn't sick again.
This wasn't the first time Joshua had visited prayer camps. She's been relying on them for years to fix many family problems, and right now she's hoping they will heal her husband's blindness.
I believe that God will do it when his appropriate time comes. You can't force God or you can't rush God.
Nigeria has the second highest rate of daily prayer in the world, according to the Pew Research Center, with about 95% of the population praying daily. But health experts here worry that some citizens are trying to pray away illnesses and refusing to seek medical care until it is too late. According to the World Population Review, Nigeria had the 15th highest mortality rate in the world in 2023. And some health officials worry that the reliance on unproven spiritual remedies is making it worse.
Spiritual beliefs and practices are already deeply rooted, and often people prioritize them over conventional science-based medical treatment. So is a major issue in Nigeria.
Yes! Christian pastors like Mike Michaels are trying to bridge the gap between prayer and medicine, telling their followers that the two should work together.
So there is that balance. The problem is when you see medicine in itself as able to heal you outside of God, and I think that's where the issue is. So medicine is provided by God because God is the master scientist.
Michael says despite the perception, many churches like his are trying to set the record straight.
We've reached out to several people, we've done medical outreaches, helped people to get them free glasses, done rapid tests for malaria and some other sicknesses.
According to the World Bank data, in 2021, about 4% of Nigeria's total gross domestic product went to healthcare spending. In contrast, that same year, it was over 10% in the European Union and over 16% in the US. The lack of government investment makes healthcare expensive for many Nigerians, and so, in many cases, prayer may be the only option. Timothy Obiezu, VOA Africa, Abuja, Nigeria.
Well, that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent Makori in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. To remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joker Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.